After a China trip that yielded few clear wins on Iran or Taiwan, did a frustrated Trump end his visit with a quiet tantrum on the tarmac, ordering his team to trash Beijing's gifts before wheels up? As the farewell handshakes faded and Air Force One prepared to depart, did Trump's entourage respond to those cold Beijing goodbyes by dumping Chinese gifts straight onto the tarmac rather than carrying them home? With credentials, delegation pins, and even temporary phones reportedly thrown away before takeoff, was this just hard-nosed security, or a symbolic purge of anything touched by their wary Chinese hosts? And if nothing from China was allowed onto the plane after days of smiles with Xi, does that trash run reveal how little trust actually survived the summit behind all the handshakes and red carpet shots? After the high-stakes meetings in Beijing wrapped up, U.S. staff reportedly gathered up every gift and token from their Chinese counterparts and dumped them before boarding, rather than risk taking anything aboard Air Force One. Following a 3-day visit in China, Trump's entourage took what insiders describe as extraordinary security precautions, treating even innocuous-looking items as potential vulnerabilities. According to those reports, U.S. staff destroyed or discarded items handed over by Chinese officials, from small commemorative objects to practical accessories used during the visit. Delegation badges, lapel pins, and the burner phones used for communications on the ground were all reportedly thrown away before departure, ensuring nothing that lived in Beijing's security bubble made it into the U.S. president's flying fortress. In practice, that meant nothing provided by the Chinese hosts, no gadgets, no passes, no trinkets, was allowed past the jet stairs, drawing a hard line between the summit stagecraft and the secure American bubble. One reporter traveling with the president even summed up the mood by saying nothing from China allowed on the plane as they left, a phrase that quickly became shorthand for the entire security purge. The sweep came immediately after Trump's final round of talks with Xi on May 15th, underscoring how, once the cameras clicked off, both sides dropped back into a posture of deep suspicion. Officials say the move followed strict counterintelligence protocols, not a sudden temper, reflecting the standard playbook for dealing with material handled inside a rival power security system. Under those rules, devices, badges, and other materials used inside what Washington considers a hostile or high-risk environment are routinely destroyed or quarantined once a visit ends. The aim is to block any chance of hidden tracking, malware, or surveillance devices riding back home inside seemingly harmless objects and later compromising sensitive communications. That's why the burner phones issued for the trip were reportedly wiped and disposed of immediately, rather than being reused or carried back into normal government networks. But the nothing allowed on the plane rule also lays bare how little real trust underlies U.S. China contact. Even after a constructive summit, Washington treated every Chinese object as a possible Trojan horse. Donald Trump arrived in Beijing hoping China could help the United States address tensions with Iran and the growing crisis around passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Expectations were high that Xi Jinping might use Beijing's leverage over Tehran to push Iran toward accepting U.S. terms or at least to reduce actions that threaten commercial shipping through Hormuz. However, post-meeting readouts from both Washington and Beijing suggested the talks did not produce a meaningful shift in China's position on Iran or a clear new commitment to U.S. demands. China remains one of Iran's closest diplomatic partners and its largest oil customer, giving Beijing economic and strategic reasons to avoid measures that could be seen as directly confronting Tehran. After his first round of talks with Xi, Trump publicly claimed the Chinese leader offered to help resolve the conflict, framing the visit as potentially productive on the Iran question. Later, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told NBC that, according to his account, the United States had not formally asked China to provide specific assistance, complicating the administration's messaging. The White House said both sides agreed the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and that Iran should not acquire nuclear weapons, presenting those points as common ground from the meetings. However, China's statement about keeping Hormuz open could also be read as including opposition to external measures such as a U.S. blockade, leaving room for differing interpretations. She reportedly opposed any militarization of the strait or the imposition of tolls on shipping, emphasizing Beijing's preference for freedom of navigation without added security measures. Despite the talks, Beijing appeared to stick to its existing position on the conflict, reiterating long-standing principles without signaling a change in policy toward Iran. China had earlier called for normal passage through the Strait of Hormuz, language that emphasizes commercial transit but does not equate to taking sides in regional coercion. Notably, China's foreign ministry readout made no mention of support for shipping tolls or enforcement measures that would back a U.S. blockade, indicating caution in its public posture. Trump himself acknowledged limits to Xi's influence over Iran, noting in comments that the Chinese leader was unlikely to apply forceful pressure on Tehran. "He's not coming in with guns," Trump said when asked whether she could compel Iran to change course, underlining an understanding of Beijing's constraints. Hours later, China's foreign ministry reiterated that Beijing's position is very clear, signaling continuity and an unwillingness to adopt dramatic new steps for Washington. That statement strongly suggested China had no plans to alter its stance at Washington's behest, reinforcing perceptions of diplomatic distance on the Iran issue. The developments fueled speculation that China had effectively snubbed U.S. expectations by offering vague support for open navigation, but stopping short of concrete action against Iran. All this unfolded even before Trump's high-stakes Beijing visit had officially concluded, leaving key questions about the trip's impact on Iran and Hormuz unresolved.
This has been an incredible visit. I think a lot of good has come of it. We've made some fantastic trade deals, great for both countries. He's a man I respect greatly, become really a friend. We've known each other now 11 years, almost 12 years, that's a long time. And we've settled a lot of different problems that other people wouldn't have been able to settle. And the relationship is a very strong one. We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open. We're closing it now. I mean, they closed it, and we closed it on top of them. But we want the straits open, and we want them to get it ended because it's a crazy thing. They're a little bit crazy, and that's no good. Can't have it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.